8 heartbreaking moments from 1923 Season 2 that prove Taylor Sheridan's latest Yellowstone prequel is his saddest. Taylor Sheridan's latest prequel about the Dutton family, 1923, is arguably his saddest Yellowstone story, and there are 8 heartbreaking moments to prove it. The saga follows John Dutton IE's Kevin Costner ancestors witnessing Jacob, Harrison Ford, and Cara Dutton's Helen Mirren family as they navigate life a century earlier. Like in every generation of the Dutton family tree in Yellowstone, the 1920s Dutton clan fights the greed of those around them, as Banner Creighton, Jerome Flynn, and Donald Whitfield, Timothy Dalton, wage a war against them. While 1923 Season 1 made it plain and simple that life in the Prohibition era was a struggle for the Duttons, things got significantly worse in 1923 Season 2. The Dutton family faces grave circumstances on the Yellowstone Ranch, each member barely surviving the unforgiving winter of 1924. Still, the most tragic stories are those unconnected to the ranch. 1923 Season 2 sees Alex Dutton, Julia Schlapfer, and Spencer Dutton, Brandon Sklenar, make separate journeys through an America riddled with moral bankruptcy and violence. All the while, terrible things happen to Tiana Rainwater, Amina Neves, proving that 1923 tells the grimmest Yellowstone stories yet. In 1923 Season 2, Episode 1, Tiana Rainwater is in hiding with P. Plenty Clouds, Jeremy Ghana, and her father runs his horse, Michael Spears. In the premiere, Tiana and her clan are still safe from Marshall Kent, Jamie McShane, and Father Renaud, Sebastian Roget, who teamed up to find Tiana. That said, Tiana's search team encounters another Native American group in their search for the escaped student, and they face the wrath of the men's hatred. In 1923 Season 2's premiere, Kent and Renaud encounter a group of Comanche men, women, and children in Oklahoma Territory. They state their mission that they are looking for a Crow Indian girl, 16 years old, believing that Tiana could be hiding with the Great Plains tribe. When the men refuse to lower their rifles, Marshall Kent and his associates start shooting, killing several of their people. Then Kent runs over a young Comanche boy with his horse, proving that prejudice had robbed the lawman of his morality. This scene with Marshall Kent is particularly heartbreaking, since the Marshal embodies the prejudice some held toward Native Americans at the time, and his 1923 story shows the devastating effects they had on indigenous communities. The Yellowstone ranch foreman for the 1920s Dutton family, Zayn Davis, Brian Girardi, was arrested at the end of 1923 Season 1. The arrest was a means of Whitfield retaliating against the Dutton family and their closest allies, weakening their resolve as he vied for their land. Zayn is imprisoned for his relationship with his wife, which was unjustly illegal in Montana in the 1920s. While Jacob Dutton talks to the judge and gets Zayn and the rest of his family released to the Dutton Ranch, Zayn suffers from a grave injury. On top of the mental anguish he had endured, the beating that Zayn took in 1923 Season 1's finale caused a blood clot in his brain that compromised his ability to walk. After he nearly dies with his family en route back to the ranch from Bozeman, Zayn undergoes brain surgery from Dr. Miller, Mark Denary, and survives. Still, Zayn's story is a heartbreaking tale about discriminatory laws in the 1920s and their devastating and senseless impact. In 1923 Season 2, Episode 2, several events are added to the list of terrible things that happened to Elizabeth Strafford. A rogue wolf, presumably rabid, bites Elizabeth as she visits the chicken coop in the dead of winter. But what happens next is even worse. As a blizzard approaches, Dr. Miller arrives to treat Liz, and Jack's sweetheart wasn't prepared for what was next. After Miller declares that Elizabeth needs rabies shots in her stomach, Strafford resists, worsening a grave situation. As Elizabeth vehemently refuses the rabies shot that could mean the difference between her living and dying, Kara and a cowboy hold Elizabeth by her arms and legs, pinning her down as she resists. Then Dr. Miller forcibly injects Elizabeth with the antidote. Strafford is emotionally scared by the events, understandably, with the traumatic moment causing her to vow that she will leave the Dutton Ranch for Boston, foreshadowing Elizabeth's decision at the end of 1923 Season 2. Amid all the tribulations that Alexandra of Sussex faced on her voyage through America, one of the first was her dehumanizing experience passing through immigration at Ellis Island. Despite her home country advertising America as a land for refugees, Alex's inaugural experience as an immigrant was humiliating, oscillating between her being scrutinized and barely regarded, tapping into two unpleasant extremes of social experience. Alex has two understandable breaking points in the proceedings. She nearly shuts down when asked to remove her clothes, later likening the experience to being scanned like cattle. Then Alex must plead to enter the country to a customs officer who doubts her story that she is on a journey to her husband's ranch in Montana. While Alexa's selection of quotes in 1923 Season 2, Episode 3 secures her entry, it was visceral to get such a complete picture of what the immigration experience could be like for a woman in Alex's position. The worst is yet to come for Alex Dutton after she nobly scrapes through customs at Ellis Island. Upon arriving at Grand Central Terminal in New York City, where she plans to board a train, Alex faces a new set of problems caused by her fellow citizens. While in the bathroom, as she waits to board her train to Fargo, Alex is assaulted by a crook who preys on her as she enters the ladies' room. An ominous cliffhanger in 1923 Season 2, Episode 3. In 1923 Season 2, Episode 4, Alex is beaten and robbed, losing everything from her money to her bracelet from her friend, Jennifer Jo Ellen Pellman. Then after boarding the train with no resources for food, Alex accepts a job working in the train's dining car in exchange for her meals. Unfortunately, this leads to another awful moment for Alex Dutton when a passenger sexually assaults her during mealtime. The circumstances Alex endured on her rail journey were truly awful, painting the bleak reality of Alex's vulnerability while traveling unprotected in the 1920s. He was a well-established villain by 1923 Season 2, Episode 5, but it was still shocking and genuinely devastating when Marshall Kent killed Pete Plenty Clouds, Tiana's love interest. After Tiana's group headed north through Texas on land with few resources, Pete went searching for water so they could fuel their horses. While he was away from the group, Plenty Clouds encountered Marshall Kent resting with Father Renaud, who immediately pursued him for his potential connection to Tiana. In one of the most gripping cliffhangers of 1923 Season 2, Kent races after Plenty Clouds, and when Pete falls off his horse, they engage in a shootout. Pete pulls his rifle at the same time as Kent goes for his holster, leaving audiences truly on the edge of their seats about who would win the gunfight. We learn in Episode 6 that Kent bested Pete's shot. Pete's death was a devastating loss for Tiana, adding to the grief that orbited Rainwater's pursuit of freedom as a Crow girl in the 1920s. One of the most visceral deaths in 1923 is that of Paul August Prue and Hillary Janet Montgomery. The couple meets Alex on the train to Chicago, rescuing her from the Chicago police and her assailant. When they take her to their home in Winnetka, Alexa's friends devise a plan to personally deliver their British peer to Montana, driving her there. However, their journey is devastatingly ill-fated, and Alex finds Paul and Hillary's frozen corpses at the end of 1923 Season 2, Episode 6. Despite receiving a warning from a local woman at the gas station in Buffalo, Wyoming, the British folks continue their deadly journey to emigrant, to their detriment. When Alex wakes up, having survived the cold longer than her friends due to lying on the floor, Spencer's wife is stranded with no food, water, or fuel, but manages to start a fire to keep warm. Still, Paul and Hillary's death was a somber occasion, proving 1923 season 2's story is one of Taylor Sheridan's saddest tales. Had it been more uplifting, Alex's friends would have survived, but that wasn't 1923's message.